Welcome back. Today, we're stepping into the dark and silent world of Limbo. If you enjoy story-focused videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's begin. The forest is black and white, drained of all warmth. A small boy wakes alone on its edge, his silhouette stark against the pale undergrowth. He doesn't know where he is or why, but something drives him forward, an instinct, a purpose buried beneath the surface. He begins to walk. The world around him is hostile from the start. Giant spiders lurk in the shadows, their legs like twisted branches scraping against bark. When the first one descends, mandibles clicking, the boy must run. He finds a bear trap, rusted and cruel, and with desperate ingenuity, uses it against the creature. The spider recoils, wounded, but others will follow. This is a place where nothing is given freely, where survival demands quick thinking and quicker feet. As he ventures deeper, the boy encounters others' children like himself, though they flee at his approach, or worse, try to lead him into traps. Trust is a luxury he cannot afford. One child uses a rope to try and hang him from a tree. Another rolls a boulder down a slope, attempting to crush him beneath its weight. These are not friends or allies. They are survivors too, shaped by the same merciless environment, willing to sacrifice another to ensure their own continuation. The forest gives way to industrial ruins, a landscape of broken machinery and cruel contraptions. Here, the dangers multiply. Saw blades spin endlessly in the darkness. Magnetic platforms shift without warning, pulling metal objects and the boy toward deadly drops. He learns to manipulate his surroundings, solving environmental puzzles that seem designed by some sadistic architect. A minecart becomes a bridge. A crate becomes a stepping stone. Death comes often and suddenly, but each failure teaches him something new. Gravity itself becomes unreliable. In certain areas, the world rotates, sending the boy tumbling through space until up becomes down and down becomes sideways. He clings to platforms, times his jumps with precision, knowing that a single miscalculation means a fall into infinite darkness. The game, if this can be called a game, demands perfection, or at least persistence. Water presents new threats. The boy cannot swim well, and drowning is always moments away. He finds a boat, a small inflatable craft, and uses it to navigate flooded sections where submerged machinery threatens to pull him under. But the water itself seems alive, rising and falling with malevolent intent, as if the entire world conspires to stop his progress. Then there are the worms, parasitic creatures that burrow into his brain when he steps into light. Once infected, the boy walks involuntarily toward illuminated death traps, unable to stop himself. He must find darkness to break free, or use the infection strategically, letting the worms control him just long enough to reach otherwise inaccessible areas. The irony isn't lost. In a world defined by darkness, light becomes the enemy. The factory sections grow more complex. Electromagnetic fields manipulate metal boxes and machinery, creating puzzles within puzzles. The boy pushes and pulls, climbs and drops, always moving right, always forward. Behind him, the world seems to collapse into nothingness, as if his passage erases what came before. There is no going back, only through. Giant gears grind with mechanical indifference. Crushing pistons slam down in rhythmic patterns that must be memorized and exploited. The boy becomes smaller against these industrial horrors, a fragile spark of life navigating a necropolis of steel and rust. Yet he persists, driven by that nameless compulsion. Later, he encounters gravity-defying platforms that flip the world entirely. Standing on a ceiling becomes walking on a floor. The disorientation is total, but the boy adapts. He must. There is no alternative but death, and death, he has learned, is only temporary here. Each demise rewinds time slightly, placing him back before his fatal mistake, giving him another chance to solve the problem differently. The threats evolve. Bear traps give way to electrified floors. Spiders are replaced by crushing walls and drowning chambers. But the fundamental challenge remains constant. Observe, think, act. The boy has no weapons, no special abilities. He has only his mind and his determination. As he progresses, fragments of story emerge from the environment itself. There are hints of an industrial catastrophe, suggestions of experiments gone wrong, whispers of a sister lost somewhere in this nightmare realm. The boy is searching for her, perhaps. Or perhaps he is searching for escape. Or perhaps there is no difference. The final sections take on a surreal quality. The ruins become more abstract, less tethered to any recognizable reality. Strange mechanical devices operate according to logic that seems dreamlike, nightmarish. The boy climbs higher and higher, through structures that defy architectural sense, toward what he cannot know. And then, breakthrough. Light, not the hostile light of the parasite-inducing traps, but genuine daylight. The boy emerges from a shattered window into brightness. Before him, a ladder leads upward. He climbs, each rung taking him further from the darkness below. At the top, a girl. She stands in the light, her back to him, unmoving. The boy has traveled through hell itself to reach this moment. He approaches. She turns. The screen goes black. What happens next remains hidden, subject to interpretation. Does he find redemption? Does he discover she is real? Or merely another trap, another cruelty in a world built on suffering? The silence offers no answers. The journey is complete, yet nothing is truly resolved. In the end, Limbo is a story of perseverance against incomprehensible odds. A small boy, alone in a hostile world, moving forward because forward is the only direction that exists. Every death is a lesson. Every obstacle overcome is a small victory against the darkness. The destination may be uncertain, but the path itself, brutal, beautiful, unforgiving, defines the experience entirely. The journey through Limbo is the story. The rest is silence. But there is more to Limbo than the surface journey reveals. Those who look deeper, who refuse to accept the ambiguous ending at face value, discover another layer, a secret that transforms everything that came before. After reaching the sister in the light, some force compels the boy to continue searching. Throughout the world, hidden glowing eggs lie concealed in the darkest corners, the most dangerous places. These are not merely collectibles, they are pieces of a puzzle, fragments of truth scattered across the nightmare landscape. Finding them requires returning to areas already traversed, examining every shadow with renewed scrutiny. One egg hides behind a waterfall in the forest. Another rests in a chamber accessible only by solving an already difficult puzzle in a new way. Each discovery demands not just skill but obsession, a willingness to see what the world tries to hide. The boy collects them all, every last glowing secret. And when he does, something changes. At the game's beginning, where he first awoke in the forest, a new path reveals itself. A previously hidden section of the world opens, leading downward rather than forward, deeper rather than onward. This is not part of the main journey. This is something else entirely, a truth beneath the truth. The descent takes the boy into caverns that feel older than the industrial ruins above, more primal than the forest. The puzzles here are different, more deliberate, as if someone built them specifically to keep people out, or perhaps to keep something in. He navigates through these underground passages, solving increasingly complex environmental riddles. Platforms must be positioned just so. Gravity shifts in new configurations. Water flows through ancient channels, and the boy must manipulate it precisely to proceed. There is a sense of approaching something significant, something final. The passage terminates in a strange chamber. No enemies here, no saw blades or crushing machines, just emptiness. And at the center, an arcade machine impossibly out of place, glowing faintly in the darkness. The boy approaches. When he reaches the machine, he doesn't interact with it in any conventional way. Instead, he simply stops. And then, in a moment that recontextualizes everything, the boy himself begins to fragment. His form breaks apart, dissolving into geometric pieces that scatter and fade like pixels, losing cohesion. The silhouette that traveled through hell, that died 1,000 deaths and persisted, simply ceases to be. The fragmentation is complete, absolute. Where the boy stood, there is now nothing. The implications cascade backward through the entire experience. Was the boy ever real? Was he a glitch in a machine? a ghost in a system, a consciousness trapped in an endless cycle? The arcade machine suggests this entire world, the forest, the factory, the spiders and traps and water exists within a simulation, a game within a game. Perhaps the boy was always searching for a way out, not just from the physical darkness, but from existence itself. Perhaps finding his sister was never the true goal, merely what the program told him to pursue. The hidden eggs were exit codes, keys to unlock the truth of his own unreality. Or perhaps the interpretation goes even deeper. Some observers note that the word limbo itself suggests a between state, a place where souls wait, neither fully alive nor completely dead. In classical theology, limbo housed the souls of unbaptized children, innocent beings caught in eternal stasis, denied both heaven and hell. Was the boy dead all along? Was the journey through this nightmare realm a kind of purgatory? His repeated deaths merely echoes of a single original demise? The sister at the end, was she another soul trapped in the same between state, or was she the cause of his death, her presence in the light, both his goal and his doom? The industrial setting suggests another reading, a commentary on childhood lost to mechanization, innocence ground up in the gears of modern existence. The hostile children the boy encounters represent society's casual cruelty, the way systems turn children against each other in competition for survival. The traps and machines are the rigid structures that destroy those who don't conform or can't keep up. In this interpretation, the boy's dissolution at the arcade machine represents the final erasure of individual identity, the complete consumption of the self by the entertainment industrial complex. He becomes nothing more than pixels and code, a commodity that existed only to be played with and discarded. Yet another layer emerges when considering the game's creator, Arndt Jensen, and the studio Playdead. They built this world deliberately, crafted every death trap and shadow with intention. The story, such as it is, was designed to resist easy interpretation, to live in ambiguity. The ending, both endings, refuse closure because closure would diminish the experience. The boy's journey is meaningful precisely because it remains unresolved. He represents every person who has ever felt lost in a hostile world, who has persevered through darkness toward a barely glimpsed light. His deaths and resurrections mirror the human experience of failure and persistence. His lack of name, face, or voice makes him universal. He could be anyone, which means he is everyone. The sister, too, exists in this ambiguous space. Is she salvation or just another aspect of the nightmare? Her presence in the light suggests hope, but the abrupt ending denies confirmation. She might be real, or a lure, or a memory, or a delusion. The game offers no evidence to definitively support any single interpretation. What remains certain is the journey itself. The boy moved through Limbo's darkness with nothing but determination and ingenuity. He solved problems that seemed impossible. He survived in a world designed to kill him. And whether he found redemption, dissolution, death, or something else entirely, he made it to the end. Perhaps that's the only truth Limbo offers. In the face of overwhelming darkness, we continue forward. Not because we know what awaits us, not because we're promised a happy ending, but because moving forward is what the living do. The boy in Limbo walks because walking is all he has. He climbs because the ladder is there. He searches because the alternative is to stop, and stopping is indistinguishable from death. In a meaningless world, he creates meaning through action. In a hostile environment, he finds ways to survive. And when he finally dissolves into nothingness, when the pixels scatter and the arcade machine hums in the darkness, perhaps that too is a kind of victory. He found the deepest secret, penetrated to the core of his reality, and chose to end the cycle. If Limbo is a trap, dissolution is escape. If existence is suffering, non-existence is peace. Or perhaps not. Perhaps the machine simply reset, and somewhere in a black and white forest, a small boy is waking up again, ready to walk through the darkness one more time. The cycle eternal, the journey endless, the meaning forever deferred. Limbo doesn't answer its own questions, because the questions are more important than the answers. What matters is that we ask them. that we think about what it means to persist through darkness, that we consider the nature of our own existence and the structures that contain us. The boy's story is our story, told in shadows and silence. And like all the best stories, it doesn't end, it simply stops, leaving us to carry it forward into the light. But even this understanding, the revelation of the arcade machine, the dissolution into pixels, does not fully capture what Limbo means or why it resonates so deeply with those who experience it. Consider what the boy endures on his journey. The deaths are not merely frequent. They are grotesque, sudden, and often shocking in their brutality. A boulder crushes his small body, leaving it crumpled and broken. Saw blades slice him in half with mechanical precision. He drowns in murky water, his silhouette going limp as the life leaves him. He is electrocuted, impaled, dismembered, and destroyed in countless ways. Yet each time, the world rewinds. Time pulls backward just enough to give him another chance, placing him moments before his demise. There is no blood in this black and white world, no gore, yet the violence feels visceral precisely because of what is implied rather than shown. The silhouette art style creates distance, but it cannot fully shield us from the horror of watching a child die repeatedly. This repetition serves a purpose beyond gameplay mechanics. It forces us to internalize the boy's suffering, to feel the weight of each failure. We are not merely observers, we are complicit. We guide him into danger. We misjudge jumps. We make mistakes that cost him his life, then immediately try again, treating his deaths as learning opportunities rather than tragedies. The game quietly asks, what does it mean that we can watch a child die hundreds of times and continue playing? What does our persistence say about us? Are we the boy's savior, guiding him through impossible odds? Or are we his tormentor, forcing him to suffer again and again in pursuit of our own completion? This uncomfortable duality extends to the other children in Limbo. They are not monsters, despite their hostility. They are survivors who have learned that cooperation is impossible, that trust leads only to exploitation. When they try to kill the boy, they are acting rationally within the logic of their world. There are not enough resources, not enough safe spaces. The environment itself has taught them that another child is either a tool to be used or a competitor to be eliminated. The boy must kill some of them to progress. He drops a boulder on one. He uses another as a weight to solve a puzzle, indirectly causing their death. These are not framed as moral choices. There are no dialogue options, no alternative paths that preserve life. Survival demands sacrifice, and the sacrifices are always someone else. This raises darker questions about the nature of the journey. Is the boy a hero searching for his sister, or is he simply another predator in a world that breeds predation? His innocence is assumed because of his small size and vulnerable appearance, but his actions throughout the game are pragmatic to the point of cruelty. He uses everything and everyone as tools. The only difference between him and the hostile children is that we control him, making his violence justified in our eyes. The industrial landscape reinforces this theme of dehumanization. The factories and machines represent systems that treat people as interchangeable parts, grinding them up without regard for individual worth. The boy navigates these systems by learning their logic, internalizing their rules, becoming machine-like himself in his precision and persistence. There is a moment late in the game where the boy must time his movements perfectly with a series of crushing pistons. Miss the timing by even a fraction of a second, and he is pulverized. But execute correctly, and he slips through gaps that seem impossibly small, moving with inhuman precision. The player must become mechanical to survive the mechanical world. This transformation from vulnerable child to precision instrument mirrors a broader human experience. We adapt to hostile environments by becoming harder, colder, more calculating. We learn to suppress empathy when empathy becomes a liability. The boy's journey through Limbo is a dark coming-of-age story, where maturity means learning to kill efficiently, and dying means only temporary setback. The parasitic worms add another layer of horror to this progression. When infected, the boy loses autonomy entirely, walking toward death without volition. This seems like a metaphor for indoctrination, for the way systems can hijack individual will and turn it towards self-destruction. But the game demands that players use this parasitic control strategically, deliberately, infecting the boy to solve certain puzzles. The implication is chilling. Sometimes we must surrender autonomy to progress. Sometimes the system's control over us is not something to resist, but something to exploit. The boy cannot remove the worms through force of will. He can only find darkness that makes them release him. Even his moments of freedom are environmentally determined, granted by circumstance rather than chosen. As the journey continues, the puzzles grow more abstract, less grounded in any recognizable physics. Gravity reverses without explanation. Platforms move in patterns that suggest intelligence, but reveal no creator. The world itself seems to be deteriorating, losing coherence, becoming more dreamlike and less substantial. This dissolution of reality mirrors the boy's own fragmentation. As he progresses, he becomes less a character and more a function, a point of interaction, a mechanism for solving environmental puzzles. His motivations, whatever they were at the start, fade into irrelevance. All that remains is the forward momentum, the compulsion to continue. When he finally reaches his sister and the screen cuts to black, there is no triumph, no resolution, no sense of accomplishment. The abruptness feels less like an ending and more like an interruption, as if the story stopped mid-sentence. This too serves a purpose. It denies us the catharsis we've been pursuing through hours of death and struggle. We wanted the suffering to mean something. We wanted the journey to justify its brutality through a meaningful conclusion. Instead, we get only silence and ambiguity. The game refuses to tell us whether we succeeded or failed, whether the sister was worth finding, whether any of it mattered. And for those who find all the hidden eggs, who unlock the secret passage and discover the arcade machine, the denial of meaning becomes even more explicit. The boy doesn't transcend his circumstances or break free into some larger reality. He simply stops existing, his pixelated form scattering like dust. This is perhaps the most honest ending the game could offer. There is no escape from limbo, because limbo is not a place, it is a condition, a state of being caught between meaning and meaninglessness, between agency and determinism, between hope and despair. The boy cannot leave because he is defined by his imprisonment. Remove the prison, and there is no boy left to be free. The arcade machine in the secret chamber represents this meta-textual awareness. It acknowledges that the entire experience exists as entertainment, as code and pixels arranged for our consumption. The boy's suffering was always artificial, always controlled, always designed. His deaths served our enjoyment. His persistence gratified our desire for achievement. By dissolving him before the machine, the game indicts us gently but unmistakably. We played him into non-existence. We pushed him through horror after horror, justifying it with the promise of answers or resolution. And when we finally penetrated to the deepest secret, we discovered only the mechanism of our own entertainment, and the boy paid the price for our curiosity. Yet even this interpretation may be too neat, too complete. Limbo resists definitive readings. For every explanation offered, counter-evidence exists. The sister could be real. The world could be literal. The dissolution could be transcendence rather than annihilation. The game provides just enough ambiguity to support multiple contradictory interpretations simultaneously. Perhaps this is the truest reflection of the human condition the game offers. We exist in our own limbos, caught between competing narratives, unable to definitively know which interpretation of our lives is correct. We tell ourselves stories to make sense of suffering, but the stories are always provisional, always incomplete. The boy walks through darkness because he must, because staying still is impossible, because the alternative to forward motion is dissolution. He does not know if his sister exists or if reaching her will matter. He proceeds on faith or instinct, or simply because the game's design forces him to. We are not so different. We move through our own incomprehensible worlds, solving problems whose significance we cannot judge, pursuing goals whose value we cannot verify, dying small deaths, and continuing anyway because continuation is what we do. Limbo offers no comfort, no easy answers, no reassurance that suffering serves a purpose. It simply shows us a small figure in the darkness, walking forward, and asks, isn't this enough? Isn't the persistence itself meaningful, regardless of the destination? Isn't the journey its own justification? The game ends without answering these questions, because they are not questions with answers. They are the questions we carry with us through our own dark forests and ruined factories, toward whatever light we imagine waits ahead. That was the story of Limbo, a quiet journey through fear, loss, and uncertainty, where answers are never spoken, only felt. If you enjoy this story and want more full game narratives like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.